Marcus Chen stepped off the big green bus at Fort Benning. His legs shook a little as his feet hit the ground. The Georgia sun was hot and bright. It made him squint behind his thick glasses. He pushed them up his nose with one finger. They always slipped down when he was nervous. Around him, other young men were getting off buses too. They all looked bigger than Marcus. Their voices were loud and deep. Many of them talked about guns and hunting. They told stories about deer they had shot and targets they had hit. Marcus listened but said nothing. He had never held a real gun in his life. Marcus was 18 years old. He came from Denver, Colorado. His parents ran a small computer shop. Marcus spent most of his time there, fixing computers and playing video games. He was good with his hands and had sharp eyes, but he was small and quiet. His classmates at school often forgot he was there. When Marcus told his parents he wanted to join the army, they were shocked. His mother cried. His father asked him many times if he was sure. Marcus nodded each time. He wanted to do something important with his life. He wanted to prove he could be more than just the quiet kid who fixed computers. Now he was here at Fort Benning. This was where the army trained new soldiers. Marcus looked around at the other recruits. Some were tall and strong. Others had tattoos on their arms. A few looked like they had been lifting weights for years. Marcus touched his soft belly under his t-shirt. He had never been to a gym. A loud voice cut through the air like a knife. "Line up! Now move it! Move it!" A man in a perfect green uniform marched toward them. His hat was pulled low over his eyes. His voice was so loud it made Marcus jump. This was Drill Sergeant Williams. He would be their teacher for the next 10 weeks. Drill Sergeant Williams walked up and down the line of new recruits. He stopped in front of each one. Sometimes he shouted. Sometimes he asked questions. When he got to Marcus, he stopped for a long time. He looked down at the small young man with glasses. "What's your name, soldier?" the drill sergeant asked. "Marcus Chen, sir," Marcus said. His voice was quiet. "I can't hear you. Say it louder." "Marcus Chen, sir." Marcus tried to make his voice stronger. The drill sergeant looked at Marcus from head to toe. He saw the glasses. He saw the soft face. He saw the thin arms. "Where are you from, Chen?" "Denver, Colorado, sir." "What did you do in Denver?" "Play video games all day?" Some of the other recruits laughed. Marcus felt his face get hot. "I fixed computers, sir." "Computers." The drill sergeant shook his head. "Well, Chen, this isn't a computer shop. Think you can handle real army training?" "Yes, sir," Marcus said. But inside he was not sure. The drill sergeant moved on to the next recruit. Marcus let out a long breath. His hands were shaking a little. He wiped them on his pants. The first few days were very hard for Marcus. He had to wake up at 5 in the morning. The other recruits jumped out of bed fast. Marcus was always last. He moved slow in the mornings. His glasses would fog up when he went outside into the hot air. During physical training, Marcus struggled. He could not do many push-ups. His running was slow. When they did jumping jacks, his glasses bounced on his nose. The other recruits finished their exercises and had to wait for Marcus. Some of them looked angry about waiting. "Come on, computer boy," one recruit called out. "We don't have all day." Marcus tried harder. His face turned red from trying so hard. Sweat dripped down his forehead and made his glasses slip even more, but he did not give up. He finished every exercise, even if he was last. At night, Marcus lay in his small bed. His body hurt all over. His muscles were sore from training. He could hear the other recruits talking and laughing. They talked about home and girlfriends. They made plans for when they finished training. Marcus mostly listened. He did not have much to say. Some recruits were mean to Marcus. They called him names like Four Eyes and Computer Nerd. They hid his glasses when he was in the shower. Once they put shaving cream in his boots. Marcus never said anything back. He just cleaned up the mess and kept going. But Marcus noticed things the other recruits did not see. He watched how the drill sergeants moved. He paid attention to every word they said. When they taught about weapons, Marcus listened very carefully. Even though he had never touched a real gun, he studied everything about them. The drill sergeants taught them about different types of guns. They learned about rifles and pistols. They learned how to clean them and take them apart. Marcus was very good at this. His fingers were quick and careful from fixing computers. He could take apart a rifle and put it back together faster than most other recruits. One drill sergeant noticed this. Sergeant Rodriguez was older than the others. He had been training soldiers for many years. He watched Marcus work with the weapons. He saw how careful and precise Marcus was. "Chen," Sergeant Rodriguez called out one day. "Come here." Marcus walked over quickly. "Yes, sir." "You're pretty good with these weapons. Ever shot a gun before?" "No, sir, never." Sergeant Rodriguez raised his eyebrows. "Never, not even a BB gun?" "No, sir. My parents did not like guns." "Interesting." Sergeant Rodriguez looked at Marcus for a long moment. "Well, tomorrow we go to the shooting range. We'll see what you can do with a real rifle." That night Marcus could not sleep. He was excited and nervous about shooting. He had played shooting games on computers, but he knew real guns were very different. He wondered if he would be good at it. He wondered if he would embarrass himself again. The next morning came fast. After breakfast, all the recruits walked to the shooting range. It was a big open area with targets set up far away. The targets looked like the shape of a person. Each recruit would get a chance to shoot at them. Marcus watched the other recruits go first. Some did okay. Others missed the targets completely. A few hit the targets, but not in good spots. When it was almost Marcus's turn, his hands started to shake. "Chen, you're up," Drill Sergeant Williams called out. Marcus walked to the shooting line. A drill sergeant handed him a rifle. It was heavier than Marcus expected. The metal was cold in his hands. He had studied how to hold it, but this was different. This was real. "Take your time, Chen," Sergeant Rodriguez said. "Remember what we taught you." Marcus lifted the rifle to his shoulder. He looked through the sights at the target. It seemed very far away. He tried to remember everything he had learned. "Breathe slowly. Keep the rifle steady. Squeeze the trigger gently." The other recruits watched. Some were whispering and laughing. They expected Marcus to miss badly. After all, he had never shot a gun before. He was just the computer kid with glasses. Marcus took a deep breath. He focused all his attention on the target. Everything else disappeared. He could not hear the other recruits. He could not feel the hot sun. There was only him, the rifle, and the target. He squeezed the trigger. The rifle made a loud bang. It kicked back against his shoulder. Marcus blinked and looked at the target through the sights. For a moment, he could not believe what he saw. The bullet had hit the exact center of the target. The shooting range went completely quiet. Every person there stopped what they were doing. They all stared at Marcus and then at the target. The bullet hole was right in the center. Perfect. Sergeant Rodriguez walked over to look closer at the target. He used a small telescope to see better. "Dead center," he called out. His voice sounded surprised. The other recruits looked at each other. Their mouths were open. Just a minute ago they were making jokes about Marcus. Now nobody was laughing. The quiet computer kid had just made a perfect shot on his first try. "Beginner's luck," one recruit whispered to another. Drill Sergeant Williams walked over to Marcus. "Not bad, Chen. Let's see you do it again." Marcus nodded. He loaded another bullet into his rifle. This time more people were watching. Some of the drill sergeants from other groups had come over to see what was happening. Marcus raised his rifle again. He looked through the sights at the same target. He breathed in slowly, then breathed out. His heart was beating fast, but his hands were steady. He squeezed the trigger. Bang! Another perfect shot. This bullet hit so close to the first one that it almost touched it. "What the hell?" someone said quietly. Marcus fired 8 more shots. Each bullet hit very close to the center. When he was done, all 10 bullet holes were grouped together in a circle smaller than a coin. Sergeant Rodriguez walked back from the target. He was shaking his head. "In 20 years of training soldiers, I have never seen anything like this." He looked at Marcus. "Son, are you sure you've never fired a gun before?" "Yes, sir." "I'm sure." "This is not normal," Sergeant Rodriguez said to the other drill sergeants. "This kid has something special." Word about Marcus's shooting spread quickly around the base. By the end of the day, soldiers from other companies were talking about the computer kid who could shoot like a machine. Some did not believe the stories. They thought people were making it up. The next day, Marcus went to the shooting range again. This time, more people came to watch. They wanted to see if yesterday was just luck. Marcus did not disappoint them. He hit the center of the target over and over. It did not matter if the target was close or far away. Marcus could hit it. One drill sergeant decided to make it harder. He moved Marcus's target much farther away. Most new recruits could not even see a target that far. But Marcus looked through his sights, aimed carefully, and fired. The bullet hit the target right in the middle. "Move it back more," another drill sergeant said. They kept moving the target farther and farther away. Each time, Marcus hit it. His shots were not just lucky hits. They were precise and controlled. It was like he had been born to shoot. Marcus started to feel more confident. For the first time since arriving at Fort Benning, he was good at something. Better than good. He was the best. The other recruits stopped making fun of him. Instead, they watched him with respect and wonder. "How do you do it?" one recruit asked Marcus that night. Marcus thought about the question. "I don't know. I just look at the target and shoot where I want the bullet to go." "But how do you know where to aim?" Marcus tried to explain. "I can see the wind moving the grass. I can feel how strong it is. I think about how far the target is. Then I just know where to point the gun." The recruit looked confused. "You can calculate all that in your head?" "I guess so. It just feels natural." This was true. Marcus had a gift that even he did not fully understand. When he looked at a target, his brain automatically calculated everything: distance, wind speed, temperature, humidity. He did not have to think about math or formulas. His mind just knew. Other drill sergeants started coming to watch Marcus shoot. These were men who had been in the Army for many years. They had seen thousands of soldiers learn to shoot. But they had never seen anything like Marcus. One of these sergeants was Master Sergeant Rodriguez. He was different from the other drill sergeants. He was quieter and more serious. He had been a sniper in several wars. He understood shooting better than almost anyone. Master Sergeant Rodriguez watched Marcus for 3 days. He saw how Marcus studied the wind before shooting. He noticed how Marcus controlled his breathing. He watched how still Marcus could hold his rifle. On the 4th day, Master Sergeant Rodriguez approached Marcus after shooting practice. "Chen, walk with me," he said. They walked away from the other recruits. Master Sergeant Rodriguez stopped under a big tree. He looked at Marcus for a long time before speaking. "Son, I've been watching you shoot. What you're doing is not normal. Most soldiers train for months to shoot as well as you shot on your first day." "Thank you, sir. I'm not giving you a compliment. I'm stating a fact." Master Sergeant Rodriguez crossed his arms. "Have you ever heard of Army snipers?" "A little, sir. They shoot from very far away, that's right. Snipers are the best shooters in the Army. They can hit targets from distances that seem impossible. They save lives by taking out enemies before those enemies can hurt our soldiers." Marcus listened carefully. He had seen snipers in movies and video games, but he had never thought about being one himself. "The Army has a special school for training snipers," Master Sergeant Rodriguez continued. "It's one of the hardest schools in the military. Most soldiers who try it fail. They can't handle the pressure or the difficulty." "Why are you telling me this, sir?" Master Sergeant Rodriguez smiled slightly. "Because I think you might have what it takes. Your natural shooting ability is just the beginning. Being a sniper requires patience, intelligence, and mental toughness. From what I've seen, you might have all of those things." Marcus felt excited and scared at the same time. "Do you really think I could do it?" "I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out." Master Sergeant Rodriguez put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "How would you feel about some extra training? I want to see what you can really do." Marcus nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. I would like that very much." "Good. Starting tomorrow, you'll join me for special shooting sessions after your regular training. We'll work with different types of rifles and longer distances. If you do well, I'll recommend you for sniper school." That night, Marcus lay in his bed thinking about what Master Sergeant Rodriguez had said. Sniper school sounded incredible and terrifying. He wondered if he was really good enough. Maybe his shooting had just been luck after all. But deep down, Marcus knew it was not luck. When he held a rifle, something inside him woke up. He felt calm and focused in a way he had never felt before. His whole life, he had been searching for something he was truly good at. Maybe this was it. The next day, Marcus's special training began. Master Sergeant Rodriguez took him to a different part of the shooting range. This area had targets set up at much longer distances. Some were so far away that Marcus could barely see them without his glasses. "Today we try something harder," Master Sergeant Rodriguez said. He handed Marcus a different rifle. This one was longer and heavier than the ones Marcus had used before. "This is a sniper rifle. It's more powerful and more accurate, but it's also harder to control." Marcus lifted the rifle carefully. It felt different in his hands. More serious. More dangerous. "The target is 400 meters away," Master Sergeant Rodriguez said. That's about 4 football fields. Most new recruits can't even hit a target that size at that distance. Take your time and do your best. Marcus looked through the scope on the rifle. The target looked much closer now, but he could see that the wind was blowing harder at this distance. He watched the grass moving in the field between him and the target. He felt the wind on his face. He aimed, breathed slowly, and fired. The bullet flew straight and true. It hit the target dead center. Master Sergeant Rodriguez lowered his binoculars slowly. Outstanding, he said quietly. Let's try 600 meters. 6 months later, Marcus stood at the entrance of the Army Sniper School. His hands were sweating as he looked at the sign above the gate. This was the most elite shooting school in the military. Only the best soldiers were invited to come here. Marcus had finished basic training at the top of his class. His shooting scores were the highest anyone had ever seen. Master Sergeant Rodriguez had kept his promise and recommended Marcus for sniper school. But now that Marcus was here, he felt very small and nervous. A bus pulled up beside him. 15 other soldiers got off. These were Marcus's classmates for the next 8 weeks. As Marcus looked at them, his heart sank. Every single one of them looked like a professional soldier. There was Thompson, a big man from Texas. He had been in the Army for 6 years and had fought in 2 wars. His arms were covered with scars and tattoos. When he walked, other soldiers moved out of his way. Next to Thompson stood Davis, a quiet man from Montana. He had grown up hunting elk and bears in the mountains. He could track animals for miles and shoot them from distances that seemed impossible. His rifle was like an extension of his body. Then there was Martinez, a short but strong woman from California. She had been a Marine sniper before joining the Army. She had more confirmed kills than most soldiers would ever see. Her eyes were cold and focused like a hawk watching for prey. One by one, Marcus met his classmates. All of them had years of combat experience. All of them had proven themselves in real battles. Many of them had already been snipers in other units. They were here to become even better. And then there was Marcus. 18 years old, no combat experience. 6 months ago, he had never held a real gun. He felt like a child playing with adults. The other students looked at Marcus with confusion and some annoyance. They whispered to each other when they thought he could not hear. Who's the kid with glasses? Is he lost? This isn't computer camp. He looks like he should be in high school, not sniper school. Marcus heard their comments but tried to ignore them. He knew he did not look like he belonged here. But Master Sergeant Rodriguez had believed in him. Marcus had to prove that belief was correct. The school's commander was Colonel Hawkins. He was a legendary sniper who had served in special operations for 20 years. When he spoke, everyone listened. His voice was quiet but powerful. "Welcome to sniper school," Colonel Hawkins said to the group. "Look around you. Half of you will not be here in 4 weeks. This is not regular Army training. This is the hardest shooting course in the world." Marcus looked around at his classmates again. They all looked confident and ready. Marcus tried to look the same way, but inside he was terrified. "You will train 16 hours a day," Colonel Hawkins continued. "You will shoot in rain, snow, heat, and cold. You will learn to hit targets at distances you never thought possible. Most importantly, you will learn to think like a sniper." The first week was brutal. Marcus woke up at 4 in the morning every day. After a quick breakfast, the students went straight to training. They learned about different types of rifles and scopes. They studied ballistics and weather effects. They practiced shooting positions for hours until their muscles ached. Marcus struggled with some parts of the training. He was not as strong as the other students. When they had to carry heavy equipment for long distances, Marcus fell behind. When they did physical exercises, Marcus finished last. But when it came to shooting, Marcus was in a different league. Even among these elite soldiers, his accuracy was extraordinary. While other students missed targets at long ranges, Marcus hit them consistently. His groups of shots were always the smallest and most precise. The instructors noticed this immediately. Sergeant Major Wilson was the chief shooting instructor. He had been teaching snipers for 15 years. He had never seen a student shoot as well as Marcus. "Chen," Sergeant Major Wilson called out after a shooting exercise. "Come here." Marcus walked over nervously. He expected to be in trouble for something. "How old are you?" Sergeant Major Wilson asked. 18, sir. 18. Sergeant Major Wilson shook his head. "I've got students here with 10 years of experience, and you're outshotting all of them." "How is that possible?" "I don't know, sir. I just point and shoot. It's not that simple. You're calculating wind, distance and trajectory faster than guys who have been doing this for years. Have you been practicing somewhere else? No, sir. Just what we did in basic training. Sergeant Major Wilson stared at Marcus for a long moment. Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. But remember, shooting is only part of being a sniper. You need to prove you can handle everything else too. This was true. Being a sniper required more than just good shooting. Students had to learn fieldcraft, how to move without being seen and hide in the wilderness. They studied camouflage and concealment. They learned to judge distances without instruments and read wind patterns. Marcus found some of these skills difficult at first. He was not used to being outdoors for long periods. His glasses fogged up when he tried to crawl through thick grass. He was not good at moving quietly through the woods, but Marcus was a fast learner. He watched the other students carefully and copied what they did. He practiced camouflage techniques until he could disappear into almost any background. He learned to move so quietly that even the instructors could not hear him. The other students began to respect Marcus more as the weeks went by. At first, they had seen him as just a lucky kid. But Marcus proved himself day after day. His shooting was consistently perfect, and his other skills improved rapidly. Thompson, the big soldier from Texas, was the first to change his mind about Marcus. "Hey, kid," Thompson said one evening. They were cleaning their rifles after a long day of training. "That was some good shooting today." "Thank you," Marcus said quietly. "How do you do it?" "I've been shooting for 15 years and I can't group shots like you do." Marcus thought about how to explain it. "I just try to see everything that might affect the bullet. The wind, the temperature, how far the target is. Then I put all that together in my head." "You do all that math in your head?" "It doesn't feel like math. It just feels natural." Thompson nodded slowly. "You've got a gift, kid. Don't waste it." Other students started asking Marcus for advice. Davis wanted to know how Marcus read wind patterns so well. Martinez asked about breathing techniques. Even the experienced snipers realized they could learn something from the 18-year-old. Marcus was happy to help. He shared everything he had learned. He was not trying to show off or prove he was better than anyone. He just wanted everyone to succeed. But not all the students were friendly to Marcus. A few were jealous of his natural ability. They thought it was unfair that someone so young and inexperienced could outshoot them. Jackson was one of these students. He was a sergeant with 8 years in the Army. He had expected to be the best shooter in the class. Instead, he was constantly outperformed by a teenager. "This is bullshit," Jackson complained to other students. "That kid shouldn't even be here. He's taking a spot from a real soldier." Some students ignored Jackson's complaints. Others agreed with him. They thought Marcus had not earned his place in the school. The tension came to a head during the 4th week of training. The students had a competition to see who could hit the most targets at various distances. The winner would receive recognition and a small trophy. Jackson was determined to beat Marcus. He practiced extra hours every day. He studied wind patterns and ballistics charts late into the night. He was going to prove that experience mattered more than natural talent. On the day of the competition, all the students gathered at the shooting range. Instructors from all over the base came to watch. This was always an exciting event. The competition had 5 stages. Each stage had targets at different distances and in different conditions. Students earned points for hitting targets and lost points for missing. Marcus started slowly. He was nervous with so many people watching. His first few shots were good but not perfect. Jackson took an early lead. "Come on, kid," Thompson whispered to Marcus. "Show them what you can do." Marcus took a deep breath and focused. He stopped thinking about the crowd and the competition. He just concentrated on each target one at a time. By the 3rd stage, Marcus had caught up to Jackson. By the 4th stage, he had taken the lead. Jackson was getting frustrated. His shots became less accurate as he tried to rush. The final stage was the hardest. Targets were placed at 800 meters in swirling wind conditions. Most students would be lucky to hit half of them. Marcus stepped up to the firing line. He studied the wind flags carefully. He felt the breeze on his face. He loaded his rifle and took aim at the first target. For the next 10 minutes, Marcus put on a shooting display that left everyone speechless. He hit target after target with mechanical precision. When the wind changed, he adjusted instantly. When the light shifted, he compensated perfectly. When Marcus finished, he had hit all 10 targets. Most of them were dead center hits. The crowd of instructors and students was completely silent. Jackson stepped up for his turn. The pressure was enormous. He needed to shoot perfectly to have any chance of winning. But Jackson was too tense. His first shot missed the target completely. His second shot hit the edge. By the time he finished, he had only hit 6 targets. Marcus had won the competition by a huge margin. Week 6 of sniper school brought a new level of difficulty. The students who remained were the best of the best. 5 had already dropped out, unable to handle the pressure and demands. Those who stayed faced increasingly impossible challenges. Marcus had grown stronger and more confident over the weeks. His shooting was still perfect, but now his other skills had caught up. He could move through thick forest without making a sound. He could hide so well that instructors walked past him without seeing him. Most importantly, he had earned the respect of his classmates and teachers. On Monday morning, Colonel Hawkins gathered all the remaining students in the classroom. His face was more serious than usual. The students could tell something important was about to happen. "Today you will face what we call the Eliminator," Colonel Hawkins announced. "This is a test that has been part of this school for 30 years. In all that time, no student has ever successfully completed it." The students looked at each other with worry and excitement. They had heard whispers about the Eliminator from older soldiers. It was legendary among snipers, a shot so difficult that many people believed it was impossible. "The target is a standard playing card," Colonel Hawkins continued. "It will be placed 200 meters away. That's more than 7 football fields. You will have exactly 1 bullet. 1 chance. The wind will be measured and announced, but it changes constantly. You must account for temperature, humidity, and elevation." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. 200 meters was much farther than anything they had attempted in training. A playing card was tiny compared to their usual targets, and with only 1 bullet there was no room for error. "The shot must be taken between noon and 1 o'clock, Colonel Hawkins said. "This is when the heat creates the most difficult shooting conditions. The air shimmers and dances, making it hard to see clearly. Wind currents become unpredictable." Thompson raised his hand. "Sir, has anyone ever come close?" 3 students have hit the board that holds the card. 1 actually hit the edge of the card itself. But no one has ever hit the card dead center, which is what's required to pass. Davis asked the question everyone was thinking. "What happens if we miss?" "Nothing bad," Colonel Hawkins replied. "This test is optional. You can choose not to attempt it with no penalty. Those who try and miss simply continue with regular training. But anyone who succeeds," he paused dramatically. "Anyone who succeeds will be recommended for immediate assignment to Special Operations." Special Operations. Marcus had heard about these elite units. They were the most skilled soldiers in the Army. They got the most dangerous and important missions. For a sniper, assignment to Special Operations was the highest honor possible. "You have 3 days to decide if you want to attempt the Eliminator," Colonel Hawkins said. "Use that time to think carefully. This shot has broken the confidence of many good snipers. Make sure you're ready for the possibility of failure." After the meeting, the students talked among themselves. Some were definitely going to try. Others were unsure. A few had already decided it was too risky. "I'm going for it," Thompson declared. "I didn't come this far to back down from a challenge." Martinez nodded. "Same here. Special Operations has been my dream since I joined the Army." Marcus listened to the discussion but did not say anything. He was thinking about the shot. 200 meters. A playing card. 1 bullet. The numbers swirled in his head. That evening, Marcus walked to the shooting range alone. He wanted to study the area where the Eliminator would take place. The range was empty and quiet. He could hear crickets chirping in the distance. Marcus walked to the 200-meter marker. A wooden board was mounted there with a target holder. Tomorrow, a playing card would be clipped to that holder. Marcus strained his eyes to see it clearly. Even with his glasses, the board looked very small. He walked back to the shooting position and lay down where he would take the shot. Through his rifle scope, he could see the target area much better. But a playing card would still be incredibly small, even magnified. Marcus spent 2 hours at the range studying wind patterns and light conditions. He watched how the heat made the air shimmer. He observed how the wind changed direction every few minutes. This would be the most difficult shot he had ever attempted. The next day, Marcus barely spoke to anyone. He was completely focused on the Eliminator. He studied ballistics charts and weather data. He practiced shooting positions and breathing exercises. Everything he did was preparation for the shot. Other students noticed Marcus's intense focus. Some thought he was being too serious about an optional test. Others understood that this might be the most important shot of his life. "You going to try it, kid?" Thompson asked during lunch. Marcus nodded. "Yes, I have to." "Why?" "You don't have to prove anything to anyone." Marcus thought about the question. "I need to know if I can do it. If I don't try, I'll always wonder." Thompson smiled. "That's the right attitude. Just remember, even if you miss, you're still the best shot I've ever seen." On Wednesday morning, the day of the eliminator, Marcus woke up before his alarm. He had slept badly, dreaming about the shot. His hands were shaking slightly as he got dressed. At breakfast, Marcus could barely eat. His stomach was in knots. The other students who were attempting the shot looked just as nervous. Even Thompson, who was usually confident about everything, seemed worried. At 11:30, the students and instructors gathered at the shooting range. Word had spread around the base about the eliminator. Dozens of soldiers had come to watch. Some had never seen the legendary test attempted. Colonel Hawkins stood at the shooting line with a deck of playing cards. He shuffled through them and pulled out the ace of spades. The black spade symbol stood out clearly against the white background. "This is your target," he announced, holding up the card. Standard playing card. 2.5 inches wide, 3.5 inches tall. He walked to a military jeep and drove to the 200-meter marker. Through binoculars, the students watched him clip the card to the target holder. When he drove back, the test was ready to begin. "Current conditions," Sergeant Major Wilson announced. "Temperature 94 degrees Fahrenheit. Humidity 68%. Wind, variable from 8 to 15 miles per hour, generally from the southwest. Visibility, good with heat shimmer." 5 students had decided to attempt the eliminator. They would shoot in alphabetical order. Marcus would go fourth just before Thompson. The first shooter was Davis. He took his time setting up his shot. He studied the wind flags for several minutes, checking and rechecking his scope adjustments. When he finally fired, everyone held their breath. Through spotting scopes, the instructors checked the target. "Miss," Sergeant Major Wilson announced. "No impact on target board." Davis looked disappointed but not surprised. He had known the odds were against him. Martinez went second. She was more aggressive in her approach, spending less time on preparation. Her shot was quick and confident, but the result was the same. Miss, no impact on target board. Jackson was third. He had practiced for this shot more than anyone else. He made tiny adjustments to his scope several times before firing. His bullet hit the wooden board that held the playing card but missed the card itself. "Impact on target board," Sergeant Major Wilson announced. No hit on card. Now it was Marcus's turn. He walked to the shooting line feeling strangely calm. All his nervousness had disappeared. This was what he had trained for. This was his moment. Marcus lay down in the prone shooting position. He adjusted his rifle carefully and looked through the scope. The playing card was clearly visible, but it looked impossibly small. The heat shimmer made it dance slightly in his vision. He spent 10 minutes studying the conditions. The wind was tricky, changing direction every few seconds. Sometimes it blew from the left, sometimes from the right. Marcus had to find a pattern or wait for a moment of calm. The crowd watching was completely silent. Even the instructors held their breath. They had seen many attempts at the eliminator, but something about Marcus felt different. Maybe it was his age, or maybe it was his reputation for impossible accuracy. Marcus continued to wait and watch. Some people in the crowd began to fidget. They thought Marcus was taking too long. But Marcus ignored everything except the wind and the target. After 15 minutes, Marcus saw what he was looking for. The wind flags showed a brief moment of calm air. The heat shimmer decreased slightly. Marcus knew this was his chance. He controlled his breathing, letting out half a breath and holding it. His rifle was perfectly steady. Through the scope, the playing card seemed to fill his entire world. Marcus focused on the black spade symbol in the center of the card. He squeezed the trigger gently, smoothly, perfectly. The rifle cracked, echoing across the range. The bullet left the barrel at nearly 3,000 feet per second. It would take almost 2 seconds to reach the target at 200 meters. Everyone watched through binoculars and spotting scopes. For a moment, nobody could tell what had happened. Then Sergeant Major Wilson's voice cut through the silence. "Target hit. Direct hit on playing card." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Marcus had done what no student had ever done before. He had conquered the eliminator, but Marcus barely heard the celebration. He was still looking through his scope at the target. The playing card was fluttering in the wind, held by just one corner. News of Marcus's success with the Eliminator spread through the military like wildfire. Within hours, phone calls were being made to commanders at the highest levels. A teenage recruit had accomplished something that experienced snipers had failed to do for 30 years. But for Marcus, completing the Eliminator was just the beginning. The shot had proven to himself and others that he could handle extreme pressure and impossible challenges. Now he wanted to push his limits even further. The next morning, Colonel Hawkins called Marcus to his office. The room was decorated with awards and photographs from the colonel's long military career. Marcus sat in a chair across from the colonel's desk, wondering if he was in trouble for something. "Chen, what you did yesterday was remarkable," Colonel Hawkins began, "but I need you to understand something. The Eliminator was designed to be impossible. We never expected anyone to pass it." "Yes, sir. Now I'm faced with a problem. You've exceeded every standard we have in this school. You've broken records that we thought would never be broken. The question is, what do we do with you now?" Marcus did not know how to answer. He had never thought beyond passing sniper school. Colonel Hawkins opened a thick folder on his desk. "I've been making some phone calls since yesterday. There are some very important people who want to meet you. Special operations commanders, Pentagon officials, even some generals." "Really? Really? But before we get to any of that, I want to try something. There's a record that has stood in the military for over 20 years. It was set by a Marine named Gunnar Rodriguez in 1999. He made a confirmed shot at 1,947 meters during a training exercise." Marcus's eyes widened. 1,847 meters was much farther than anything he had attempted. "That record has never been broken," Colonel Hawkins continued. "Many snipers have tried, but the combination of distance, wind, and equipment limitations has made it impossible. Until now, maybe. You want me to try to break the record? I want to offer you the chance. This would not be an official test like the Eliminator. This would be a purely voluntary attempt. If you miss, nothing happens. If you succeed," the colonel paused. "If you succeed, you'll have set a new training record that might stand for the next 50 years. Marcus felt excited and terrified at the same time. 1,847 meters was an enormous distance. At that range, dozens of factors could affect the bullet's path. Wind, temperature, humidity. Even the rotation of the earth could change where the bullet landed. The conditions would have to be perfect, Colonel Hawkins explained. "We'd wait for a day with minimal wind and clear visibility. You'd use our best rifle and ammunition. Our most experienced instructors would help with calculations and spotting. When would this happen? That depends on the weather and your willingness to try. We could be ready as early as next week." Marcus thought about the challenge. 1,847 meters, over a mile. The target would be barely visible even through a powerful scope. The bullet would take almost 3 seconds to reach its destination. In that time, even a slight breeze could push it off course. But Marcus also thought about Gunnar Rodriguez, the Marine who had set the original record. If Rodriguez could do it with older equipment and less advanced training, maybe Marcus could too. "I want to try, sir." Colonel Hawkins smiled. "I thought you might say that. But I want you to understand the pressure you'll be under. Word of this attempt will spread quickly. There will be a lot of people watching. Military officials, media, maybe even civilians." "I understand." "Good. Then let's start preparing." The preparation for the record attempt was unlike anything Marcus had experienced. Teams of experts were brought in to help. Ballistic specialists calculated exact trajectories. Weather forecasters monitored conditions constantly. Equipment specialists fine-tuned rifles and scopes to perfection. Marcus worked with a new rifle for this attempt. It was a custom-built sniper rifle worth more than most people's cars. Every part had been precisely manufactured and tested. The scope was so powerful that Marcus could see individual blades of grass at 1,000 meters. The ammunition was special too. Each bullet was handmade by experts, weighed to the exact gram and tested for perfect balance. The gunpowder in each cartridge was measured precisely to ensure consistent velocity. Marcus spent hours every day practicing with the new equipment. He learned how to make tiny adjustments that could mean the difference between hitting and missing at extreme range. He studied wind patterns and weather effects until he understood them perfectly. But the most important preparation was mental. At 1,347 meters, technical skill was only part of the equation. Marcus needed to stay calm under enormous pressure and trust his abilities completely. Sports psychologists were brought in to help Marcus prepare mentally. They taught him visualization techniques and breathing exercises. They helped him learn to block out distractions and focus entirely on the shot. At this distance, your mind is more important than your rifle, one psychologist explained. If you doubt yourself for even a moment, you'll miss. Days passed as the team waited for perfect conditions. They needed minimal wind, clear air, and stable temperatures. Weather forecasters checked conditions hourly, looking for the ideal window. Finally, on a Tuesday morning, the conditions aligned. The wind was nearly calm, with speeds under 5 miles per hour. The air was clear and dry. Temperature was stable. The forecasters predicted these conditions would last for several hours. Colonel Hawkins made the decision. Today is the day. Word spread quickly around the base and beyond. By noon, over 100 people had gathered to watch the attempt. Military officials drove in from other bases. News reporters arrived with cameras. Even some families of soldiers came to witness the historic attempt. Marcus tried to ignore the crowds and focus on his preparation. He checked and rechecked his equipment. He studied the wind flags and tested his scope adjustments. Everything had to be perfect. The target for this attempt was different from the eliminator. Instead of a playing card, Marcus would aim at a standard military silhouette target. It was larger than a playing card but much smaller when viewed from 147 meters away. At 1:00 p.m., Marcus took his position at the firing line. The crowd fell silent. Even the news reporters stopped talking. Everyone understood they might be witnessing history. Marcus looked through his scope at the distant target. It appeared as a tiny dark shape against the light background. At this distance, he could barely make out its outline even with maximum magnification. He spent 30 minutes studying the conditions. The wind was mostly calm, but it changed slightly every few minutes. Marcus had to understand these patterns perfectly to predict where his bullet would be affected. Temperature was another factor. The bullet would pass through different air densities as it traveled the long distance to the target. Marcus had to account for how these changes would affect the bullet's path. Even the curvature of the Earth mattered at this distance. Over 1847 meters, gravity would pull the bullet down more than usual. Marcus had to aim higher to compensate. All of these calculations had been done in advance by experts with computers. But Marcus also trusted his instincts. Sometimes the best snipers could sense things that computers could not measure. As Marcus continued to prepare, tension built among the spectators. Some began to whisper that he was taking too long. Others defended his careful approach. Everyone knew that once he fired, there would be no second chance. Finally, after 40 minutes of preparation, Marcus was ready. The wind had stabilized at about 3 miles per hour from the southwest. The air was crystal clear. His rifle was perfectly adjusted. Most importantly, Marcus felt completely calm and confident. He controlled his breathing and settled into his shooting position. Through the scope, the target seemed impossibly small and far away. Marcus focused all his attention on the center of the silhouette. He thought about Gunnar Rodriguez, the Marine who had set the original record. Marcus imagined what Rodriguez must have felt when he took his historic shot. The pressure, the excitement, the determination to achieve something special. Marcus squeezed the trigger with smooth, steady pressure. The rifle fired with a sharp crack that echoed across the range. The bullet left the barrel at nearly 3,000 feet per second, beginning its long journey to the target. For almost 3 seconds, everyone watched and waited. The bullet was invisible in flight, traveling faster than sound. All they could do was hope and pray that Marcus's calculations were correct. Through powerful spotting scopes, instructors watched the target area. For a moment, nothing happened. Then one instructor shouted, "Hit! We have a hit!" The crowd erupted in celebration. People cheered and applauded. Some cried with emotion. Marcus had done it. He had broken a record that had stood for over 20 years. But Marcus barely heard the celebration. He was still looking through his scope, trying to see exactly where his bullet had hit. The spotting team confirmed what everyone hoped. The bullet had struck the center of the target, 147 meters. A new training record, set by an 18-year-old who had never held a gun before joining the Army. Colonel Hawkins walked over to Marcus with a huge smile on his face. "Chen, you just made military history. That shot will be talked about for decades." Marcus finally stood up from his rifle. He looked at all the people celebrating around him. News cameras were filming everything. The celebration of Marcus's record-breaking shot lasted for days. News of the achievement spread beyond the military to national television and newspapers. The 18-year-old sniper became famous overnight. But for Marcus, the attention felt overwhelming and strange. Colonel Hawkins called Marcus to his office 3 days after the record shot. When Marcus arrived, he found several high-ranking officers waiting. Their uniforms had more ribbons and medals than Marcus had ever seen. "Chen, I want you to meet General Patterson," Colonel Hawkins said. "He's the commander of Army Special Operations." General Patterson was a tall, serious man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He looked at Marcus carefully as if studying him. "So you're the young man who's been breaking all our records," General Patterson said. "Impressive work, soldier." "Thank you, sir. I've been following your progress since the Eliminator. What you've accomplished in 6 months is remarkable, but I have a question for you." Marcus waited nervously. "Are you satisfied with what you've achieved so far?" Marcus thought about the question. He had broken records and exceeded everyone's expectations. But deep inside, he still felt like he could do more. "No, sir. I think I can push further." General Patterson smiled. "That's exactly what I hoped you'd say. Because we have something special in mind for you." Another officer stepped forward. This was Colonel Martinez, a woman with intense eyes and multiple combat ribbons. "Chen, what we're about to discuss is highly classified," Colonel Martinez said. "The information cannot leave this room. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." "Good. We want to offer you a chance to attempt something that has never been tried before. A shot at 2,100 meters. Marcus felt his breath catch. 2,100 meters was over 250 meters farther than his record shot. At that distance, the challenges would be enormous. "Has anyone ever attempted a shot that far?" Marcus asked. "In combat, yes. In training, never." The distance pushes the absolute limits of rifle technology. Wind effects become unpredictable. The bullet drop is massive. Even tiny errors in calculation can cause a complete miss. General Patterson leaned forward. "But our ballistics experts believe it's possible with perfect conditions and the right shooter. Someone with your natural abilities. Why attempt something so extreme?" "Because the military needs to know the absolute limits of human marksmanship," Colonel Martinez explained. "In future conflicts, our snipers may face situations requiring shots at these distances. If you can prove it's possible, we can develop new training methods and equipment." Marcus understood the importance of what they were asking. This would not just be about setting another record. It would be about advancing military capabilities and potentially saving soldiers' lives in future battles. "When would this happen?" "That depends on weather conditions and your willingness to try," General Patterson said. "We'd need absolutely perfect conditions. Almost no wind, clear air, stable temperatures. Such conditions might occur only once or twice a year. What if I miss?" "Nothing negative happens to you," Colonel Hawkins assured him. "This is a voluntary research project. Missing would simply provide valuable data about the limits of long-range shooting." Marcus made his decision quickly. "I want to try." The preparation for the 2,100-meter attempt was unlike anything the military had ever undertaken. Scientists and engineers were brought in from universities and defense contractors. Computer models were created to predict exactly how the bullet would behave over such a long distance. New equipment was developed specifically for this shot. The rifle was a prototype that incorporated the latest technology. The scope was so advanced it could measure wind speed and direction automatically. Even the ammunition was experimental, designed for maximum accuracy at extreme range. Marcus trained with this new equipment for weeks. He learned to use computer-assisted calculations while still trusting his natural instincts. The combination of technology and human skill would be essential for success at 2,100 meters. The mental preparation was even more intense than before. Sports psychologists worked with Marcus daily, helping him prepare for the enormous pressure he would face. This shot would be watched by generals, scientists, and media from around the world. Weather forecasters monitored conditions constantly, looking for the perfect window. They needed wind speeds under 3 miles per hour, clear skies, and stable temperatures. Computer models predicted that such conditions might occur only once in the next 6 months. Finally, on a calm Thursday morning in late autumn, the conditions aligned perfectly. Wind was nearly dead calm. The air was crystal clear after a cold front had passed through. Temperature was stable and humidity was low. General Patterson made the decision at 6 a.m. Today is the day. All teams prepare for the 2,100-meter attempt. Word of the attempt spread quickly through military channels. By noon, over 300 people had gathered to watch. Generals flew in from the Pentagon. Scientists came from major universities. International military observers arrived from allied countries. News media was kept at a distance but allowed to film the historic attempt. This would be broadcast live to military bases around the world. If successful, the shot would change how armies thought about long-range marksmanship. At the 2,100-meter mark, a special target was erected. It was larger than previous targets but would still appear tiny at such an extreme distance. The target was equipped with sensors that would detect exactly where the bullet hit, if it hit at all. Marcus spent the morning doing final preparations. He test-fired the rifle at shorter distances to verify its accuracy. He studied weather data and wind patterns. Most importantly, he worked to stay calm and focused despite the enormous pressure. At 2 p.m., Marcus took his position at the firing line. The crowd of spectators fell completely silent. Even the media stopped talking. Everyone understood they might be witnessing an impossible shot. Marcus looked through his scope at the distant target. At 2,100 meters, it was barely visible even with maximum magnification. It appeared as a tiny speck against the horizon. Marcus had to trust that his calculations and equipment were perfect. He spent 1 hour studying conditions and making final adjustments. The wind was mostly calm, but at this distance, even the slightest breeze could affect the bullet's path. Marcus watched grass and flags at various distances, trying to understand exactly what the bullet would encounter. Temperature gradients were another challenge. The bullet would pass through different layers of air as it traveled over 1.3 miles to the target. Each layer had slightly different temperature and density, affecting the bullet's flight path. Marcus had to account for the rotation of the Earth. At 2,100 meters, the Earth's rotation would actually move the target slightly during the bullet's 3-second flight time. This effect, called the Coriolis effect, was negligible at shorter distances but significant at extreme range. All of these factors had been calculated by teams of experts using advanced computers. But Marcus also relied on his instincts and experience. Sometimes the human eye could detect conditions that instruments missed. As Marcus continued his preparation, tension built among the spectators. Some began to wonder if the shot was truly possible. Others maintained faith in Marcus's extraordinary abilities. Everyone knew they were witnessing a historic moment. Finally, after 90 minutes of preparation, Marcus was ready. All conditions were as perfect as they could possibly be. His equipment was functioning flawlessly. His calculations were complete. Most importantly, Marcus felt completely calm and confident. He controlled his breathing and settled into his shooting position. Through the scope, the target was almost invisible at the extreme distance. Marcus focused all his attention on where he knew the center of the target to be. The bullet would take nearly 3 seconds to reach the target. In that time, any change in wind or temperature could cause a miss. Marcus had to trust that conditions would remain stable for those critical seconds. He thought about all the people who had helped him reach this moment. Master Sergeant Rodriguez, who had first recognized his talent. Colonel Hawkins, who had believed in him. All the instructors and experts who had shared their knowledge. Marcus also thought about the importance of this shot beyond personal achievement. Success would advance military science and potentially save lives in future conflicts. The knowledge gained would benefit snipers for generations to come. With steady pressure, Marcus squeezed the trigger. The rifle fired with a sharp crack that echoed across the range. The specially designed bullet left the barrel at over 3,200 feet per second, beginning its long journey through the air. For 3 eternal seconds, everyone watched and waited. The bullet was invisible in flight, traveling faster than sound over the enormous distance. Spotters tracked its path through powerful scopes, but even they could not see the actual bullet. At the target end, sensors and cameras recorded everything. High-speed cameras capable of filming thousands of frames per second were positioned to capture the bullet's impact, if it occurred. 3 seconds felt like 3 hours. Then suddenly, the sensors at the target began registering an impact. Computer screens lit up with data. Through powerful telescopes, spotters confirmed what the instruments indicated. "Target hit," the chief spotter announced through his radio. "Confirmed impact on target." The crowd exploded in celebration. People cheered, applauded. The news of Marcus's 2,100-meter shot spread around the world within hours. Military leaders from dozens of countries called to congratulate the United States Army. Scientists requested data about the shot to study for their own research. The video of Marcus's incredible achievement was viewed millions of times online. Marcus found himself at the center of unprecedented attention. News crews wanted interviews. Military magazines wanted feature stories. Defense contractors wanted to study his techniques. The quiet teenager from Denver had become one of the most famous soldiers in the world. 3 days after the record shot, Marcus was called to a meeting at the Pentagon. He had never been to the massive military headquarters before. Walking through its halls, he saw offices of the most powerful military leaders in America. Marcus was brought to a conference room where a dozen high-ranking officers waited. At the head of the table sat General Roberts, the Army Chief of Staff, one of the most senior officers in the entire military. "Sergeant Chen," General Roberts said, "please have a seat." Marcus had been promoted to sergeant immediately after his record shot. At 18 years and 127 days old, he was one of the youngest sergeants in Army history. "Sir, it's an honor to be here." "The honor is ours, Sergeant. What you accomplished last week has changed how we think about the possibilities of human marksmanship. Your shot has been verified and officially recorded as the longest confirmed training shot in military history." General Roberts opened a thick folder. "The ballistics data from your shot is being studied by our top scientists. The techniques you used are being incorporated into new training methods. Your achievement will benefit snipers for generations." Another officer spoke up. This was General Kim, commander of Special Operations Command. "Sergeant Chen, your record has attracted attention from our most elite units. Delta Force, the 75th Ranger Regiment Special Forces, they all want you." Marcus felt overwhelmed. These were legendary military units that most soldiers could only dream of joining. "We're offering you your choice of assignments," General Roberts continued. "Any unit, any location. You've earned the right to serve wherever you want." Marcus thought carefully. 6 months ago, his biggest decision was which video game to play. Now he was choosing between the most elite military units in the world. "Sir, I want to go where I can do the most good, where my skills can save the most lives." General Kim smiled. "That's exactly the answer we hoped for. We have a recommendation." Another officer entered the room carrying a briefcase. This was Colonel Thompson from the Army's Research and Development Command. "Sergeant Chen, your achievements have given us an idea," Colonel Thompson said. "We want to create a new program, an advanced sniper research unit. You would be the first member and help design training for the next generation of military marksmen." "What would that involve?" "You would work with our best scientists and engineers to push the boundaries of long-range shooting even further. Test new equipment, develop new techniques, train other snipers. You would help create the future of military marksmanship." The idea excited Marcus. He could continue pushing limits while helping other soldiers become better snipers. "There's more," General Roberts added. "The President wants to meet you. You're being awarded the Army Commendation Medal for your contributions to military science. The ceremony will be at the White House next week." Marcus could barely believe what he was hearing. The President of the United States wanted to meet him. He was receiving a military decoration. His achievements had reached the highest levels of government. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Just say yes to the research assignment," General Kim said with a smile. "We need someone with your abilities to lead this program." Marcus nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, sir. I accept." 1 week later, Marcus stood in the Oval Office of the White House. He wore his dress uniform with his new sergeant stripes and ribbon for marksmanship excellence. The President entered the room with several advisors and photographers. "Sergeant Chen, it's a pleasure to meet you," the President said, shaking Marcus's hand. "Your achievement has made our entire nation proud." "Thank you, Mr. President. It's an honor to serve. I understand you've broken records that stood for decades. Tell me, how does an 18-year-old become the best marksman in military history?" Marcus thought about the question. "Sir, I think it was a combination of natural ability, excellent training, and the support of many people who believed in me." "Your humility is as impressive as your shooting," the President said. "I'm told you're going to help train the next generation of snipers." "Yes, sir. I want to share what I've learned and help other soldiers become the best they can be." The President pinned the Army Commendation Medal to Marcus's uniform. Cameras flashed as photographers documented the historic moment. "This medal recognizes your exceptional contributions to military science and your record-breaking achievements in marksmanship," the President announced. Your work has advanced our understanding of human capabilities and will benefit our armed forces for years to come. After the ceremony, Marcus was interviewed by major news networks. His story fascinated people around the world, the quiet teenager who had become a military legend in less than a year. What advice would you give to young people who want to achieve something extraordinary? One reporter asked. Never give up on yourself, Marcus replied. I was just a computer repair kid who had never held a gun, but I found something I was good at and worked hard to get better. Anyone can achieve amazing things if they find their passion and dedicate themselves to it. When Marcus returned to his new assignment, he found a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to advanced sniper research. Scientists, engineers, and experienced snipers worked together to push the boundaries of long-range shooting. Marcus's first project was developing a training program for extreme distance shooting. Using data from his own record attempts, he helped create courses that could teach other snipers to make shots at previously impossible ranges. He also worked with equipment manufacturers to improve rifles and scopes. His experience with shots beyond 2,000 meters provided valuable feedback for designing better gear. But Marcus's most important contribution was teaching other snipers. Young soldiers came from around the world to learn from the record holder. Marcus shared not just his techniques, but also his mental approach to extreme challenges. The longest shot isn't always the most important one, Marcus would tell his students. The most important shot is the one that saves a life or completes the mission. Master the fundamentals first, then push the limits. Marcus's students went on to achieve their own remarkable successes. Several broke records at their home countries. Others used their improved skills to save lives in combat situations. Marcus's influence spread throughout the global sniper community. 6 months after joining the research unit, Marcus received another unexpected honor. The International Sniper Association named him Marksman of the Year, the youngest person ever to receive the award. At the awards ceremony, Marcus stood before an audience of the world's best snipers. Many were veterans with decades of experience and numerous combat deployments. They had achieved legendary status in the military sniper community. A year ago, I had never fired a real gun, Marcus said in his acceptance speech. Today, I stand here among heroes who have served their countries with distinction. This award belongs not just to me, but to everyone who helped me reach this point. The audience gave Marcus a standing ovation. These experienced warriors recognized not just his shooting ability, but his character and humility. After the ceremony, Marcus was approached by Gunnar Rodriguez, the Marine whose record Marcus had broken. Rodriguez was now retired but remained a legend in the sniper community. Son, I've been following your career, Rodriguez said. When you broke my record, I wasn't upset. I was proud. You've taken marksmanship to levels I never imagined possible. Your record inspired me, sir. It showed me what was possible, and your records will inspire the next generation. That's how we progress. Each generation pushes a little further than the last. Rodriguez handed Marcus a small box. This is the scope I used for my record shot in 1999. I want you to have it. Pass it on to someone who breaks your record someday. Marcus accepted the gift with gratitude. The scope represented the progression of military marksmanship from one generation to the next. As the evening ended, Marcus reflected on his incredible journey. In 1 year, he had gone from computer repair shop to military history. He had broken records that seemed impossible and helped advance the science of long-range shooting. But Marcus knew his story was just beginning. The research unit was developing new projects that could push marksmanship even further. There were always new challenges to face and new limits to explore. Most importantly, Marcus had found his purpose in life. He was no longer the quiet kid who fixed computers. He was a leader, teacher, and pioneer who was helping shape the future of military marksmanship. His legendary 2,100-meter shot would be remembered for decades. But Marcus hoped his greatest legacy would be the soldiers he trained and the lives those soldiers would save with their improved skills. The record books showed that Sergeant Marcus Chen had made the longest confirmed training shot in military history. But the real measure of his 5 years had passed since Marcus Chen's legendary 2,100-meter shot. The once quiet teenager from Denver had grown into a confident young man and respected military leader. At 23, he held the rank of staff sergeant and commanded the Army's most advanced sniper research unit. The facility where Marcus worked had expanded dramatically. What started as a small research program had become a world-renowned center for military marksmanship. Scientists, engineers, and elite snipers from allied nations came to study and train there. Marcus's record still stood unbroken. Several attempts had been made to surpass the 2,100-meter shot, but none had succeeded. The combination of perfect conditions, advanced equipment, and Marcus's extraordinary natural ability had created a standard that seemed impossible to match. But for Marcus, the record was no longer his primary focus. He had discovered something more important than personal achievement: the satisfaction of developing other soldiers and advancing military capabilities that saved lives. On a crisp autumn morning, Marcus stood before a class of 20 advanced sniper students. These were not beginners. They were experienced marksmen from elite units around the world. They had come to learn from the record holder himself. "Today we're going to discuss something more important than any record," Marcus began. "We're going to talk about the real purpose of precision shooting in military operations." The students listened intently. Marcus had become known not just for his shooting ability, but for his teaching skills and tactical knowledge. Last month, one of our graduates used techniques learned in this program to neutralize a terrorist sniper who was targeting civilians in a hostage situation. The shot was only 400 meters, not a record distance. But that shot saved 12 innocent lives. Marcus paused to let the lesson sink in. That's what real marksmanship is about. Not breaking records or impressing people. It's about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. The students nodded in understanding. Many of them had combat experience and knew the weight of taking a life to save others. "My 2,100-meter record gets a lot of attention," Marcus continued. "But I'm more proud of the 47 graduates from this program who have used their skills to save lives in real operations. Each of them represents the true value of what we do here." After the class, Marcus walked to his office in the research facility. The walls were covered with photos of successful graduates and thank you letters from military units around the world. Awards and commendations filled display cases, but Marcus barely noticed them anymore. His assistant, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, brought him a stack of reports. "Sir, we have 3 new requests for training programs. One from the British SAS, one from German Special Forces, and one from the Australian military." "Schedule them all," Marcus replied. "The more we can share our knowledge, the better." Lieutenant Kim smiled. She had worked with Marcus for 2 years and admired his dedication to helping others rather than seeking personal glory. "Sir, there's also a message from General Roberts. He wants to discuss a new project with you." An hour later, Marcus sat in a secure video conference with General Roberts and several other high-ranking officials. The discussion was classified and involved advanced military technology. "Staff Sergeant Chen, we have a new challenge for your team," General Roberts began. "We're developing next-generation sniper equipment that could extend effective range beyond anything currently possible. We need your expertise to test and validate the technology." The new equipment sounded incredible. Smart bullets that could adjust their path in flight. Scopes that could automatically calculate complex ballistics. Rifles that could compensate for environmental factors in real time. "What kind of ranges are we talking about, sir?" Marcus asked. "Theoretical maximum of 3,000 meters. Maybe further." Marcus felt a familiar excitement. 3,000 meters was nearly 2 miles, far beyond anything ever attempted. The challenges would be enormous, but the potential benefits for military operations were significant. "When do we start testing?" "Next month." "But Marcus," General Roberts paused, "this project will be dangerous. We're pushing technology and human capabilities to their absolute limits. I need to know you're willing to take that risk." Marcus thought about the question. He had always been willing to push boundaries and test limits, but now he had responsibilities beyond just himself. He led a team of researchers and instructors who depended on him. "Sir, I believe advancing these capabilities is worth the risk. If we can develop techniques for 3,000-meter shots, we can save lives in situations where no other option exists." "That's what I hoped you'd say." The new project began 6 weeks later. Marcus worked with a team of the world's best engineers and scientists. The equipment they developed was like science fiction made real. The rifle looked nothing like traditional sniper weapons. It was longer, heavier, and packed with electronic systems. Computer processors calculated ballistics in real time. Sensors measured wind, temperature, and humidity automatically. The scope could track targets and predict their movement. The ammunition was equally advanced. Each bullet contained tiny gyroscopes and control surfaces that allowed it to make small adjustments during flight. If the wind changed or calculations were slightly off, the bullet could correct its own path. Testing began at shorter distances and gradually increased. Marcus and his team successfully engaged targets at 2,500 meters, then 2,700 meters. Each success brought them closer to the ultimate goal of 3,000 meters. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. During a test at 2,800 meters, Marcus realized that the advanced technology was actually limiting his performance. The computer systems were making calculations based on standard assumptions that did not account for his unique abilities. "Turn off the automatic systems," Marcus told the engineers. "Let me use the technology as tools, not crutches." When Marcus combined the advanced equipment with his natural instincts and experience, the results were remarkable. He successfully engaged targets at ranges that seemed impossible, even with the new technology. The culminating test came on a perfect winter day. Conditions were ideal: almost no wind, clear air, stable temperatures. The target was placed at exactly 3,000 meters. A small group of officials and scientists gathered to witness the attempt. Unlike his previous record shots, this test was conducted in complete secrecy. The technology being tested was too sensitive for public release. Marcus took his position behind the revolutionary rifle. At 3,000 meters, the target was invisible to the naked eye. Even through the advanced scope, it appeared as barely a dot on the horizon. He spent 2 hours preparing for the shot. Every variable had to be perfect. The bullet would take nearly 4 seconds to reach the target, an eternity in precision shooting. Any change in conditions during that time could cause a miss. Finally, Marcus was ready. He controlled his breathing and focused entirely on the distant target. The advanced systems provided data, but Marcus relied ultimately on his experience and instincts. He squeezed the trigger. The bullet streaked through the air, its built-in guidance systems making tiny corrections as it flew. For 4 long seconds, everyone watched and waited. Then the sensors at the target confirmed what seemed impossible: hit. Marcus had successfully engaged a target at 3,000 meters, nearly 1.9 miles. It was the longest confirmed shot in human history, military or civilian. But this achievement would never be publicized. The technology was too sensitive and the military applications too important. Only a handful of people would ever know about Marcus's ultimate shooting achievement. Years passed, and Marcus continued his work developing advanced marksmanship techniques. He trained hundreds of snipers who went on to serve with distinction around the world. His research contributed to new equipment and tactics that saved countless lives. At 28, Marcus was promoted to Sergeant First Class and became the youngest person ever to lead the Army's sniper development program. His influence extended far beyond just shooting. He helped shape military doctrine and training methods. Marcus eventually married Lieutenant Kim, his former assistant who had become a respected military intelligence officer. They had 2 children and built a life dedicated to military service and helping others. When Marcus finally retired from active duty at age 35, he had achieved everything a sniper could hope for: multiple records, numerous awards, and the respect of military professionals worldwide. But his greatest satisfaction came from knowing that his work had made other soldiers more effective and helped save lives. Marcus became a civilian contractor, continuing to develop sniper training programs. He wrote textbooks on advanced marksmanship that became standard references in military schools around the world. On quiet evenings, Marcus would sometimes take out Gunner Rodriguez's old scope, the one given to him years earlier. He would look through it and remember his incredible journey from computer repair shop to military legend. His 2,100-meter record still stood in the public record books. Young snipers around the world studied videos of his legendary shot and dreamed of achieving similar greatness. But Marcus knew that records were temporary. Someday someone would surpass his achievement. When that day came, Marcus would be proud. It would mean that marksmanship had advanced further, that new techniques had been developed,